And what do you make of Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
We'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech, so maybe they'll have to go after you. Look, we want everything to be fair. It hasn't been fair, and the radical left has done tremendous damage to the country.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. They are silencing dissent. This is straight out of the authoritarian playbook. Use a tragedy like the assassination of Charlie Kirk as an excuse to go after regime critics. They say they're going to target hate speech, but who do you think is going to define hate speech? It's not going to be the courts. It's going to be the regime's henchmen. Here's Pam Bondi on the Katie Miller podcast, guess who she's related to, promising to do just that.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech.
The Trump regime is moving fast, using last week's tragedy as the pretext they have been waiting for. This is their Reichstag moment. If you don't know the historical reference, I encourage you to look it up. You won't be surprised that I asked Kris Goldsmith to help us understand what's coming. You know him as the founder of Veterans Fighting Fascism. He is a literal Nazi hunter, but he also has a degree in political science from Columbia University and is one of the most well-read people I know when it comes to the history of fascism and the playbook that authoritarians use to get there. Here's me and Kris. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. We've got Kris Goldsmith back, the founder of Veterans Fighting Fascism and Task Force Butler, which track extremists across the country and around the world. Kris, I want to talk to you about your latest Substack. This is actually the first episode we've done explicitly on the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk. Before we get into it, and it shouldn't have to be said, but it does, political violence should have no place in our democracy. And it doesn't matter the opinions, the history of the victim of political violence. A killing like that is an attack on all of us. It's an attack on democracy because it betrays the notion that we have peaceful debate and sort things out at the ballot box. That's what this assassination does. It betrays the promise of democracy and civil debate itself. So I want to start with that, but I want to have the conversation about what the right is doing with this opportunity. Mm-hmm. I should put that in air quotes because it's a tragedy. Those poor kids are going to have to grow up without a father. But for the right, it has become a Reichstag opportunity to silence people like you and me, which is the subject of your latest Substack piece. Can you talk about where they are taking this?
So as we are recording this, just yesterday, J.D. Vance, our vice president of the United States, hosted Charlie Kirk's show. And during that 2-hour live stream, he described the left, broadly speaking, as a terrorist movement. This is the same language that the president's deputy chief of staff, Stephen Miller, has always been using. And Donald Trump, the president of the United States, has talked about making Antifa, designating Antifa a terrorist organization. He doesn't have the power to do that, but we have seen what happens with this administration and with these courts. The man has a long leash. He's regularly going beyond his constitutional powers. The White House has been naming specific organizations that they are going to investigate and accuse of terrorism, of supporting what they deem as political violence, violence that erupts at protests. They've named the Ford Foundation, which is one of the organizations that has been supporting independent media. The net that they are trying to cast, that they are going to cast, is going to catch people like you and I. We are no longer talking about hypotheticals. We are no longer talking about what ifs. It is happening. Donald Trump's administration is going to come after us. They are going to use the IRS and other agencies and departments within the government to come for us. I have seen more and more MAGA influencers talking about going after veterans' benefits if they are not sufficiently reverent towards Charlie Kirk. But now we have a combination of the MAGA mob and the power of the federal government cooperating together to punish Americans for not sufficiently mourning the loss of an unelected political partisan who was also a racist, a transphobe, a misogynist, and a bigot in countless other ways, who did incredible damage to private individuals' lives because he didn't like the way that they thought.
Hey everyone, it's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break to say just how grateful I am for all of your support for this channel and for this show. We have a big reporting trip coming up to Ukraine. I could use your help. We have to cover the film crew, interpreters, fixers, security. It's a whole thing, but it is worth it to be able to share with you and others what is actually happening on the ground there. I just published a feature story in The Atlantic about my last trip where I embedded with the drone unit at the front. Click the link below for the full article, and we'll be putting out more great fact-based reporting over Substack. Please consider subscribing. Everything I make from Substack and Patreon goes back into this show. Thanks for the help. It's not just the punishment of the mob and that mob mentality that the government is relying on. They're not just deploying their own extremists to harass people online. They are talking about using the levers of government to do it. Mm-hmm. They are talking about shutting down news organizations, as you said, the Ford Foundation. I'm wondering if you have any advice or thoughts on how we counter that. Because, look, they don't have a case legally, but there aren't enough lawyers in the world to protect free speech if they come after all of us. There aren't enough resources in the world to pay for that. And most importantly, there isn't enough time, because even if a case were to work its way through court and the government were to be embarrassed at the end, their goal actually isn't some legal outcome, it's silencing.
Yeah, I mean, think about during the last Trump administration, how the Trump administration punished their enemies, former government officials. They would put them through audits that have been described as an autopsy without the benefit of having died first. They look into everything in your life that you've ever done, and you are legally responsible for complying with that. The Trump administration is overwhelming the justice system by doing so many absurd and illegal things at once. And the way that our Constitution was written, the way that the law works, is we have to work all these cases through the law, through the courts at once. There are only so many lawyers. There are only so many courtrooms, only so many judges. And each of us as individuals, or any of us who have organizations, or run organizations like I do, I only have so much time. I only have so much time on this planet, and I cannot handle an audit for all of my businesses, all of my nonprofits, my personal life, and all. Right?
Well, Kris, you could if you stopped doing the work, right? If that's all you did, and you know the point, right?
Yeah. So here's what I am encouraging, and this is the big project of Veterans Fighting Fascism, and that is to get people organized at the local level, and I mean hyperlocal, community level, like in-person meetings with friends, with family, with colleagues. People who are concerned about the rise of fascism in this moment should go to our website, veteransfightingfascism.org. The entire website is dedicated to teaching people how to start anti-fascist book clubs. And it's not just so that you can learn the history of fascism and what authoritarianism looks like. The history of fascism is one of democracy winning. It may take a few years, or it may take 40 years or longer, like it did in Spain, right? But democracy does win. And folks can learn from this history that they can find hope. And we have to ignore the desire of immediate gratification, of winning, of doing just this one thing to win democracy. That is not the way it works. It is going to be a years-long fight for us to not just repair the damage, but to build something better than we have gotten in the past, and to protect ourselves from another oligarchy rising, to protect ourselves from another fascist dictator, right? The way that we start this is we build communities at the local level. We not just educate ourselves and share information, but we reinforce one another, reassure one another, and protect one another. When some random person is being targeted online in a neighborhood Facebook group, right? It helps when they have people in that neighborhood who they know in real life to just get off the internet and sit down and have a coffee together. Those kinds of relationships can protect your mental health, which is the thing that the fascists are coming for. They want to create fear. They want to create insecurity. They want to create compliance through threats. If you can protect your mental health and you can judge threats not for what they appear to be at first, but what damage they could actually do, and you share that burden with people in your local community, your family, your friends, people who you are sitting down across the table from, it becomes much easier to bear that burden.
Kris, that's a beautiful note to end on. Let's have you back soon. Stay safe, man.
Thanks a lot, brother.